Hello, Times Cryptic, let's go. Superior aristocrat occupying singular times. Well, singular could be S, the abbreviation. Times could be T or X. Not getting that. Examination in science ultimately failing. A student. No. King's mistress about to be announced in court affair. Nope. Idle, though not at first, inadequate. Just wondering if that's useless. Useless could be inadequate. But I'm not getting the word play. Daphne, perhaps, in personnel aboard vessel. Personnel could be HR for human resources. Daphne, I think, is a plant and probably... Aha. It is. It's a shrub. So, shrub, a Daphne is an example of a shrub. Therefore, Daphne, perhaps. Personnel is HR. Aboard vessel, aboard sub. Now, some crossing letters. Smart dons modelled, certain type of weather. Well, modelled looks like an anagram indicator for smart dons, with the definition being certain type of weather. Gosh, I thought this would be straightforward. Well, maybe it's not an anagram. Nothing is coming to mind. Magical schoolboy without power to be animal. This is otter. The magical schoolboy is Potter, as in Harry Potter. Without power, without P, the abbreviation for power. That gives otter, which is an animal. SF author, beginning to recover, restricted by inferior implant. SF, I think, is an abbreviation for science fiction. Beginning to recover could be the initial letter of recover. Restricted by or included in. Inferior implant. Not getting that. Let me continue with the acrosses. Recalled origins when going around. Old part of theatre. Nope. 50% of Noel Coward is reconstituted from this writer. I think we're meant to regard Noel and Coward as separate elements of this clue. So 50% of Noel would be either NO or EL. And then reconstituted could be an anagram indicator for Coward is. And the whole thing is an author. So, an author beginning NO or beginning EL. No, not getting that. Secure network finally penetrated. Nope. Well, finally penetrated could be the final letter of penetrated. That would put a D in first place for 17 down. Distribution is adopted by peddlers on the move. Yeah, this is dispersal. So dispersal means distribution. Is. Adopted or included by, and then on the move is an anagram indicator for peddlers. Collection of religious texts disheartened holy men a lot at first. Well, lot at first is probably the first letter of lot. So the definition is collection of religious texts. Disheartened holy men. Yeah, the answer is hymnal. So disheartened tells us to remove the contents of the following words. So holy becomes HY, men becomes MN, and then we have A, which is A, and lot at first, L. Road up, concede, flood. Wow. Yeah, this is drown. So road is RD, the abbreviation, and up is reversal indicator. Concede is own. That gives drown, which means flood. Veteran fighter, removing outer clothing. This is oldie. An oldie is a veteran. A fighter is a soldier. Removing outer clothing, removing the outside letters S and R. Very expensive sport, I sense. Yeah, this is ruinous. So ruinous means or can mean very expensive. Sport is RU, short for rugby union. I is I, and sense is nous, as in common sense. I'm working with US soldier, reversing, US city, disgrace. I think this is ignominy. So, working or working with looks like an anagram indicator. US soldier is GI. So I'm working with GI, reversing US city. Okay, working with is not an anagram indicator. I'm is I'm. Working is on. US soldier is GI. And then reversing applies to all of that. And then the US city is NY for New York. That gives ignominy, which means disgrace. Now, does this G help? Source of oil. Something disappointing provided by shop. Okay, well, shop means grass in the sense of to betray. So the definition is source of oil. Something disappointing is a lemon. Provided by shop, provided by grass. That gives lemongrass, which is a source of oil. Fantastic. Sausage and fruit with soft drink around. Cheers. I wonder if this is chipolata. A chipolata is a sausage. Fruit is hip. With soft drink around, with cola around, and then cheers is tar. Now we have an orphan clue. Secure network finally penetrated. This is land. Land means secure. The network is LAN, short for local area network. And finally penetrated is the final letter of that word. Secret term used in golf, also one in soccer. Wow, where's the definition? 2 letters in, but they're not the most helpful of letters. Let me go back to the acrosses. Almost finished after Master's opening gambit. This is move. Finished is over, so almost finished is over without its final letter. After Master's opening, after the initial letter of Master's. That gives move, which means gambit or can do. Cape State, definitely not American, offering lots of room. Cape could be a reference to South Africa. So we could be looking for one of the states of South Africa, if South Africa is divided into states. Definitely, surely. No, I was going to say not American, not US, but US is reversed in surely. So I'll come back to that. Carbon in rocks, cracking ordinary eggshell. No. Historic vestment rotated by 50%, not quite. Suspicion eyed held back sun in parade. Nope. Smart dons modelled. Well, it still looks like an anagram of smart dons. Certain type of weather. Ah, something storm, surely. What does that leave us? Sandstorm. Okay. Well, we don't get many of those in England. So that would explain why it didn't immediately jump to the front of my mind. Now, initial letters can be helpful. Superior, aristocrat occupying singular times. So I think singular is this initial S. We're looking for a word which means superior. And then the aristocrat. Lord. No, not getting that. King's mistress about to be announced in court affair. Well, I'm wondering if Nell, as in Nell Gwyn, is the king's mistress that's being referred to. Not getting it. Okay, let me continue with the downs I haven't looked at. Stumped about pine, shampoo container. Nope. Late arrival, missing a good beer. Yeah, this is lager. So a late arrival is a lagger, somebody who lags behind. Missing a good, missing one of its G's, the abbreviation for good. That gives lager, which is a beer. Now, surely these are helpful letters. Examination. In science, ultimately failing a student. Well, I think A is A and student could be, well, could student be L for learner driver? I think A is the most likely letter, so I am going to leave it in. Examination. In science, ultimately failing a student. Nope, not getting that. Idle, though not at first, inadequate. Okay, ing not particularly helpful. Recalled origins, when going round old, part of theatre. Well, stage door fits the letter pattern, but how about the word play? Recalled origins, origins are roots, and recalled is a reversal indicator. So that accounts for R-O-O, T and S, and we're left with aged and we're left with aged. When going around old, when going around aged, that gives stage door, which is a part of the theatre. Fantastic. Book. Not so much about revolutionary rebels aim. I think this is Les Miserables. So, Les Miserables is a book. Not so much is less. And that's the first three letters and the final letter. About revolutionary rebels aim, or revolutionary is an anagram indicator for rebels aim. So it's less about an anagram of rebels aim gives Les or Les Miserables. Now, does this L help? Well, King's mistress could still be Nell. But I can't get the rest of the clue to work either in terms of definition or wordplay. But let me focus on the definition. if King's Mistress is Nell, then the definition's at the end of the clue. So we're looking at a court affair. And there's going to be a vowel in second place. And it could be, it could be E because of Nell, but I think we have netball. So King's Mistress, Nell. About to be announced, TBA is the acronym for to be announced. So Nell about TBA gives netball, which is a court affair because it's a game played on a court. Now, does this A help? Science fiction author. Beginning to recover, restricted by inferior implant. What's implant doing? Don't know. Now, the O was new from Sandstorm. 50% of Noel Coward is reconstituted. So, I think rather than 50% of Noel, i.e. N-O or E-L, being followed by an anagram of cowardice, I think we're meant to treat the anagram fodder as being N-O or E-L plus cowardice. So the N-O or E-L letters can appear anywhere. Does that help? So we know it begins with O. Oscar Wilde. Yes. Let me just check that that's coward. Is with EL. Fantastic. Okay, so now we have some grid division. 2 clues top left, separated from the rest of the grid. So let me attend to them. SF author. Beginning to recover, that could be this R. Restricted by inferior implant. Gosh. What is this? I feel the answer is the name of a science fiction author. That doesn't narrow it down much. Superior. Aristocrat occupying singular times. Gosh, well, snooty could mean superior. Aristocrat. What's a short word for an aristocrat? Nothing in snooty. Gosh, this is all a bit scary. I'm not getting either of these. Let me have one more look at 3 down. Science fiction author. Beginning to recover. Restricted by inferior. Okay, so inferior could be bad. Beginning to recover are restricted by inferior, restricted by bad. In which case, the definition is implant, and the science fiction author is 4 letters long, with an A in third place. Scabbard fits the letter pattern, but scab isn't the name of an author, and a scabbard isn't an implant. But surely it is bad about R from restricted by inferior. What could this begin with? I'm just mentally considering the initial letter. And I'm looking for an implant rather than a science fiction author. Not getting that. Superior. Aristocrat. Occupying singular times. Times could be by, So that would place a B in 3 down, and that doesn't work, or doesn't suggest any words. I'm going to come back to this. Cape State. Definitely not American, offering lots of room. Well, cavernous means lots of room. So Cape is just a reference to C, the abbreviation for Cape. State is other. Definitely not is no. American is US. That gives cavernous, which means offering lots of room. Carbon in rocks. Cracking ordinary. Eggshell. Rocks looks like an anagram indicator for carbon in, which is 8 letters, and ordinary could be O, the abbreviation. But cracking suggests that the anagram of carbon in is inside O, which doesn't work because you'd need 2 letters for something to be inside of it. Pressure on guide to provide appeal. Well, pressure could be P, the abbreviation. Yes, on guide, on lead, to provide appeal. Well, plead could be appeal. Now, does this P help? So we're not looking for an anagram of carbon in rocks. Definition, likely to be eggshell. I wonder if this is porcelain. So, carbon could be C, the chemical symbol. In rocks, in ore, O-R-E, cracking ordinary in the middle of plain. That gives porcelain, and eggshell is a type of porcelain, I think. Okay, so the grid is now split into 3 different sections. Let me have a look at the bottom left. Historic vestment rotated by 50%. Not quite. Nope. Suspicion. Eyed held back sun in parade. Nope. Tense ahead of number showing restraint. This is tether. So tense is T, the abbreviation. Ahead of number. Well, this is not, although it looks like number, it's actually number. The B is silent. And ether is a chemical substance which numbs you. So tense ahead of number is T in front of ether. That gives tether, which is restraint. Okay, so 2 orphan clues. Historic, this could be epochal. Vestment, rotated by 50%. I think, I was going to say vestment is cope, but it's not. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. A cope is a vestment. Rotated is a reversal indicator, and then 50% is half and not quite tells us to ignore the last letter. So it's cope reversed followed by half without its last letter, gives epochal, which means historic. Surely this begins dis. And suspicion, I think, is the definition. But eyed held back, I think held back is a reversal indicator for eyed. And then sun could be S, the abbreviation. In parade. So we're left with S blank R blank blank to mean parade, with the whole thing meaning suspicion. But it's possible the definition is parade, so we're looking for a word meaning either suspicion or parade. Distress fits the letter pattern, but not the word play or definition. Distrust is suspicion. View. Eyed held back is eyed reversed. Sun is S in parade in strut. Fantastic. Okay, well, let me have a look at the right-hand part of the grid before reverting to the horror show in the top left. Secret term. Aha, well, hole and corner means secret. Old slang, I think. And it fits the letter pattern. So hole and corner means secret. Term used in golf. Well, a hole is a term used in golf. Also is and. And then one in soccer, a corner is a term used in the game of soccer. Okay, fantastic. Now, surely these letters are super helpful. Examination. Physical is an examination. In science, physics, ultimately failing without its last letter. A is A and student is L for a student driver in the UK. Stumped about pine. Shampoo container. Stumped could be a reference to ST, the cricketing abbreviation. And then the definition is going to be shampoo or shampoo container. Don't know. Idle. Though not at first. Inadequate. Yeah, this is lacking. So idle is slacking. Not at first without its initial letter. That gives lacking, which means inadequate. Stumped. About pine. Yeah, this is sachet. Phew. So stumped is ST, the cricketing abbreviation. About pine, about ache. That gives sachet, which could be a shampoo container. Now, let me pause and do my quick typo squiz. Make sure everything in is as intended. All the acrosses looking good. Down's looking okay. Yes, oh, just the top left to go. Has inspiration struck? Will it strike? One across. Superior. Aristocrat. Occupying singular. Times. Aha. Yes. Inspiration has struck. This is snobby. So, snobby means superior. Aristocrat is knob. Occupying singular S times by. Now, B looked very unpromising for the initial letter, but actually once you know it's definitely correct, it surely must assist. So, science fiction author, B blank A blank. Beginning to recover R, restricted by inferior, inside bad. Implant. Is. Oh no. What is it? What is it? And what's this wretched science fiction author? B blank A blank. Well, just one thought is restricted by inferior. The bad isn't necessarily the BAD immediately around the R of Oscar. It could be this B at the front. AD. So the science fiction author could be somebody whose name is spelt blank A blank B, beginning to R, all restricted by inferior. Still with the definition of implant. Science fiction author blank A blank B. Really looks like M in second place. Charles Lamb. Well, I don't think he was a science fiction author. I think he was an essayist and children's author. But Blambard anyway. Let me just remove A and D in case they're completely wrong. Science fiction author. Beginning to recover. Restricted by inferior. Implant. Gosh, 30 minutes down. Bradbury is the name of an author. Does the wordplay support this? And I don't know what books Bradbury wrote, but I believe he is an author. Beginning to recover. Well, we've got 2 candidate R's. Restricted by inferior. Oh, wow. So R, restricted by bad, refers to the first 4 letters. And then implant is to bury, to implant in the ground. Implant is a verb, not a noun. Wow, that is cool. So, yeah, wow, this B and R, I'm so glad I removed the A and the D. I was so convinced the word was ending barred, but it wasn't. So, there we go. Every clue solved, every clue explained, no empty squares. Submit, submit. Hope and pray. No errors. Wow. Okay, for a while there, that looked super unlikely because I had no idea about Snobby and Bradbury. I couldn't for the life of me think of a short word for an aristocrat. But this is one of the keys to solving crosswords. You need to have your stock of short synonyms in mind, and knob for aristocrat is certainly one worth remembering. So, well, what a puzzle, and I don't know if I made more of a meal of it than most others did. This is not being solved at my usual solving time, and it's been an unusual day for various reasons. But it's always a pleasure to do the Times crossword, even when you struggle with it and it's your fault, not a particularly difficult crossword. It's still an enormous pleasure and part of the day which I feel is set aside for enjoyment, regardless of how much you struggle with it. The struggle is part of the enjoyment. There is an element of masochism in solving crosswords, but in a nice way. And I have total trust in the Times clues, so even when the going gets tough, I don't give up because I know the clues are fair. I know you have 2 shots at the answer in terms of the definition and the wordplay, and if you persevere, then quite often you can make progress. Now, Bradbury, I've got a feeling his first name is Malcolm, but I still can't bring to mind any particular book that he wrote. So what about the snitch for this? This is a Monday puzzle, normally easier than usual. I would say the snitch, I think this was me rather than the puzzle. I would say the snitch is going to be in maybe the 70s for this one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching that solve. Like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.